Hey there, welcome to this week's illustrational video, a behind the scene of an illustration that I'm making every week. So this time I'm making a Ghostbuster, and this is the collection of markers that I've used. Not that many, but for this illustration it's enough. Let's get started. So this is the illustration that is also available on Patreon for all Patreon members. This illustration was inspired by an image that I saw in one of my very old magazines that I hold here in the studio for reference. I saw this badass image of 4 women standing there as the Ghostbusters. So I thought, why not create my own Ghostbuster for this illustration? Now for this illustration, I'm using a pencil, a 2B type of pencil. That's very soft, not really a hard pencil. So it gives me actually great space and also possibility just to erase lines that I'm not really happy with or other things that I want to, get rid of. It's a very soft pencil, and I have to say I love working with this type of pencil. I have different ones, but this one is definitely one of my favorites. Using a soft pencil will help you really get through your sketch without making any harsh lines and then ruining your paper. And also working on marker paper, I don't know if it's my idea, but it tends to, really hold on to the pencil a lot more. So using a softer pencil and also using that in a softer way, not really pressing it on the paper, will also help me to get rid of this outline after I've used my markers. Now looking at the illustration, I was kind of doubting whether I would leave it like that. Now everybody could see that it was maybe a Ghostbuster, depending on the title of it. But I thought, well, let's add something that would speak a little bit more to an imagination. So I decided to add a monster. Now, mind you, I'm not the strongest drawer when it comes to making monsters, but I have a rich imagination, so I knew I could get pretty far with drawing monsters. I just looked at the illustration, looking at what I wanted to put in the back, and I thought, why not make this really big monster that's standing behind her and is ready to, devour her. So, again, I start sketching, creating some basic forms and lines. And with sketching, it's really useful not to really fill in all the details because you don't know how it's going to work out yet. But sketching is just very beneficial if you just start with forms. Just make some forms, try to figure out how you want it to look like, what shape does it need to have. I start to think about the colors that I have in my head, but I don't want to, look all the way into the future. Now here's where the fun part starts. Normally, when I create outlines for illustration, I use a black marker. It can be a black marker, but it can also sometimes be Indian ink or black ink. Just a good old-fashioned ink and pencil. But in this occasion, I wanted to use one of the warmer neutral colors, like a warm gray. The marker that I'm using right here of Copic marker is a warm tone. So it gives me the possibility to already outline the lines that I want to see, but not to have those harsh bold lines like when I'm using a black marker. So I still will have the ability to see my illustration, but the lines are a lot softer, and that it will be very beneficial when it comes to coloring the whole illustration, because Copic markers have the great ability to blend. When you use Copic markers over each other or with each other, they blend beautifully. So the warm tone, this warm tone gray, will give me that possibility to blend easily with other colors and to, subtly fade it away, or use it as a very soft outline. And if I want to outline certain areas a little bit more bold, then I can use a black marker. So this is like a trick that I use to make sure that I do have my outlines and I can see what the most important parts are of my illustration, but not to make the outlines very harsh and bold. Now I can take the eraser and get rid of all the pencil marks that really are not necessary for this drawing. Now certain palm pencil marks, when they blend with the Copic marker, are not to be erased. But then again, this is a very soft pencil, so eventually you won't really notice anything from it. So I erase everything away and I wipe it off. Erase a little bit more and wipe it off. And this is just a very safe way for me to say, well, it's soft. If there are any mistakes that I've made, I still am able to blend them with other colors. And I really don't have to be worried about the fact that I already used a harsh outline that is really hard to erase or to edit. So again, this is a cool, fun trick that I use, and it helps all the time. Now looking at the original image in the magazine, the Ghostbusters are wearing brown, like khaki type of uniforms. That's the color that they're wearing. But for me, that's a pretty boring color. So I decided to use another color, the color blue. And in the Copic marker range, there are many types of blue. Now I will make a separate video explaining to you how to look at the whole system of the Copic marker. But for this video, I just really quickly and in a very easy way wanted to share with you how the color blue can be used in this illustration to create like the texture that you want for the uniform, so that it's not so flat, but it has more like a dimension to it and becomes more animated and lively. So I just showed the baby blue. There was the B21 and this is the B23. It's a little bit darker than the B21, so that already shows like the separation in the color that you're using. Still blues, but with a slight difference. Okay, now here I have a piece of paper and I made two squares just to show you what the colors are. Now mind you, these are marker papers. These are not the simple sketching papers that suck up a whole lot of the ink. These are marker papers, so they have the tendency to suck up the ink a lot slower. I'm making a pretty circle, and in the circle I'm leaving this white space, indicating that it is a three-dimensional circle in which you can look within. So with the B21, I'm already trying to create some shading to show you that you can make from a two-dimensional image a more three-dimensional image. And using the B23, I add a little bit more shade at the edge to really create that texture. And this is, in a nutshell, the explanation of Copic markers. When it comes to Copic markers, you're dealing with saturation, you're dealing with the vibrancy, you're dealing with the colors, you're dealing with different shade of colors, you're dealing with different blends of colors. And when you really come to know, really get to know the whole system of Copic markers, you have so many possibilities of creating very nice illustrations. Okay, now here, as you can see, I'm filling in the blanks. And I started with the uniform. Now it's not really necessary for me to start with the uniform. I could have started with the face. I could have started with the monster, but you know, for me it's comfortable to start this way with the uniform, or actually within the illustration itself. So I am drawing this illustration on marker paper. And the brand of the marker paper is Daler and Roni. And basically it's a very inexpensive way, an inexpensive material, and I have no problem with this type of paper. It absorbs the ink pretty well. The outcome of the illustration is also very desirable, so it's great paper to work on. When you would use marker papers on, let's say, just the inexpensive sketching paper, it will absorb the mark a lot more, and I mean also a lot more. Benefit of marker paper is that it's designed to absorb the ink a little bit less, a lot less than sketching paper, and therefore the colors will still stay vibrant and you will get a great illustration out of it. Now that doesn't mean that you can't use markers on sketching paper. Please do so. If you feel comfortable with it or you're just working out with it, then do so. It will help you learn how paper absorbs ink and what the outcome of your illustration will be. But I can guarantee you this, eventually you will switch over to marker paper. It's just more cost effective that way. Now as you can see, I'm using the one blue color with the other one. I'm just switching it up a little bit just to see where I want some areas to be darker, other areas to be lighter. And what you can also see is I'm not completely filling everything up. Leaving certain areas just untouched will give me the ability to see, well, does it need a little bit more, does it need a little bit less? You know, it prevents you from making early on mistakes. And as you can see, my outline, the warm neutral gray that I've used, blends easily with other copic marker colors. So I still have an outline because, of course, that is a darker color than the blue, but it will blend beautiful with the color itself. So it's a great, and again, a great trick to start out. Now here's another type of blue that I'm using. This is the B00, and this is like the lightest blue in this range. And when I mean with range, then I'm saying between 0 and 20 or 30. Now another color, or actually it's not a color, it's a blender, a colorless blender. I use it a lot of times. It helps me just to get a nice flowy crossover between the colors. And this is another color that I use. It's not coming up quite clearly, but what it is a very cool gray, and it has the number C7. And this is another nice blue color, ice blue, B12. Now I'm using the gray to accentuate the outlines. Again, not making them completely black yet, but just to accentuate some outlines, using that for the boots. And the boots are not completely black as well. When it comes to coloring, it's very important to see that, not everything is as solid as it looks. Sometimes when you look at a reference, you can see that there is a certain lighting on it, exposure of the lighting. I think that's what I'm trying to get at, the exposure of the lighting, but also creases. You also have to do with the blending of the colors, many things that you have to take into account. Now, again, if you feel comfortable using one solid color, please do so. I mean, it's your creation, your illustration. But if you would like to experiment with that, then studying images will be a very good way to see how colors really look and appeal to the eye. So I'm using the gray color to fill in the gloves. I am boldly actually making the creases, accentuating the creases, and also going over the boots. Again, Copic markers are blendable markers. You can blend them with any color you have. So with the color blue, I'm going over the outline. So when I use my blender, the gray and the blue will actually blend with each other. Now, here's the sad part of the video. My camera just died on me. Gosh, I just hate that. Well, it's not gonna stop me from doing what I need to do. I decided just to color in and do a big part of the illustration and just to pick up the pace where I left. So, as you can see, uniform is pretty much, colored in, and I used some blending here and there. I did some some accents on the uniform, like the orange stripes on the chest and on the arm. And now I also did the monster in the back. So the monster in the back I made completely red, and it's a very bold red color. That nice bold red color for the monster is called Cardinal, and it has the number R59, so that's R59. And now again, here I do the same thing as I did with the uniform. I'm not sketching everything in, I'm not coloring everything in. I want to leave a little bit of space between the hairy outline that I've made and the monster itself. So that gives me the opportunity to fill in the blanks and to see, well, maybe I want to use a lighter color, maybe I'm going to color it completely in the red hue. Just leaving options open, because if you fill in everything, then your option is gone. But if you leave it a little bit open, then you can still have the option to say, well, I'm going to use another color, maybe to create some dimension in the whole monster. So like I said, I kept my options open, and I wanted to create, some dimension in this illustration. So I decided to take another red color within the red range of Copic marker colors, and to create this very light reddish color, almost like a shading, the way that the light would fall upon this big fuzzy monster. Now this might be odd to see, but in a lot of illustrations that I use with markers, I do use color pencils. Color pencils have this great ability to give subtlety, subtle accents to your drawing. You know, certain areas that just really, I feel, wouldn't pick up with a Copic marker. And then I accentuate them with the use of really great color markers. Now, color pencils. So color pencils are really a great way to get at those areas that are a little bit smaller, like the lips and also the cheeks. But really just add to the whole thing, because now her face really starts to speak. I also used a color pencil to accentuate like darker areas of her hair. I also used a color pencil to, you know, color in the teeth of the monster, because let's be honest, not a lot of monsters have really pearly teeth, pearly white teeth. So I used a yellow pencil to go over the teeth of the monster. You can also use a yellow Copic marker. It can be as bold as you want to, but it can also be very subtle. But in this case, I wanted to use this, you know, color yellow that I feel would be really fun to see together with the bold reddish color of the monster and also the orange outlines of the teeth. So, I hope you like this behind the scene illustration of video. I had great fun doing it, and in the future there will be, of course, a lot more. Again, it's very important to have you as a patron, so join the club. If you have any questions about the markers that I've used, you can find them in the text here below. But if you're still having some questions or difficulties, don't hesitate to hit me up on the email or any other way on the social platform, for instance. I see you next week and have a great week. Bye-bye.